Hello and welcome back to Hot Air with me, Joshua Robert. Today we are going to be diving headfirst into some of my latest therapy revelations. And they're those like aha moments when that light bulb goes on in my head and I'm like, holy shit, that makes so much sense. I wish I knew this sooner. I wish I could have applied this sooner. I always say it's better late than never, but these are the moments that make me wonder anyway, how I've even made it this far without completely unraveling. So, we're going to go through 3 little tips on this episode, 3 little exercises that have honestly in the last 5 weeks of therapy with this new therapist, these 3 little tidbits have changed the way that I think, have changed the way that I approach almost everything every single day, and I can totally feel and see them working. So I picked up these 3 little golden nuggets of wisdom, and they're just honestly too good not to share. So number 1 is going to be identifying your negative habits, and that means giving them a name, giving them an identity, because apparently the voice in my head deserves a personality. And number 2 is what boundaries actually mean. And they are not about telling people what to do and being a control freak. And number 3 is trusting your gut, which seems really straightforward, but it's more so about that nervous feeling that we might get when something amazing is around the corner, but we think it's actually just fear and kind of how to process that. So whether you're here to work on yourself or just hoping that I'm going to overshare as I always do, I will probably do both of those things, overshare and help you work on yourself. So let's dive right in. So before we get into tip number 1, let me just say, which I've said before, I am not a therapist. I have 0 education in this area. But as I am learning all of these wonderful things about myself, and some not so great things, but also learning how to adjust those habits that I have, I feel like I want to share all this stuff that I'm learning. And these podcast episodes for me are also like therapy because I'm just word vomiting it all out there. So I am just sharing what was working for me. It may not work for everyone, but there might be a way that you can take this stuff and apply it to your life and your circumstances. So with that being said, let us begin with tip number 1, identifying your negative habits and giving them a name. So first things first, let's talk about those sneaky little habits that quietly, or sometimes not so quietly, completely mess up our lives. So like the ones that are like avoiding an important email by suddenly deciding to deep clean your apartment. Hello, that's me, ADHD Central. Rereading an old text thread and convincing yourself that somebody obviously hates you, or the complete opposite, rereading text from somebody that you might be interested in and convincing yourself that they're absolutely in love with you. And you're just like, oh, they put an exclamation point there, or there's an emoji there. What does that mean? Just over analyzing that shit. Or telling yourself, I'll just check Instagram real quick. And then you lose an hour stalking some random person's profile that you met in like 2018 at a wedding. Like just things that are really not adding productivity into our lives. So yes, all of those wonderful little habits. It can literally be any habit that you feel is taking away from your productivity, taking away from things you actually want to do, maybe holding you back from getting that dream job or holding you back from meeting the one, anything you feel that is not positively affecting your life. So here is where the magic happens. When you give those negative habits a name, you're taking away their power. And it's kind of like externalizing the problem, if that makes sense. You're just kind of stepping out of it. Here's like a little example. Let's say that you have this voice inside your head that automatically jumps to wild conclusions and is like super dramatic. It can be something like something inconvenient, like your phone battery is at 20% and you just start spiraling and freaking out. And there's this voice in your head that just feels like, oh my God, my phone is going to die. I need to go plug it in. I have friends that do that where they're like, they're so terrified that their phone is going to die. Like, are you not going to survive? It can be something as simple as that. You're going to give it a name. Let's call it Dramatic Danny. Okay? Dramatic Danny. It's got a nice little ring to it. So now when you catch yourself spiraling and that voice in your head is becoming way over dramatic and out of control over the smallest minute little detail, you're going to be like, okay, Dramatic Danny, it's not the end of the world. Shut up. I'm in the driver's seat. You go back back where you came from because we don't want to listen to you anymore. It's going to help you identify those moments, come back to reality, and take control of the situation. And there's actually some research about how this works because if I don't have proof, I feel like I'm just completely lying. So, according to research by Dr. Ethan Cross at the University of Michigan, creating psychological distance, like naming your habits, reduces emotional intensity and helps you make clearer decisions. So yes, science supports your new alter ego. Now, an example of how I have applied this to my life is when I meet somebody new and I feel that there's like a little bit of a spark there and we've had a good first or second date, I start to think that I'm manifesting by imagining myself going on trips with them, imagining what it's like singing a song in the car with them, going skiing with them, going shopping with them, creating all of these memories. And only until recently did I fully realize that that was not manifesting. That was fantasizing. And when that relationship doesn't work out, I get so heartbroken, but not because of that person in real life, not because it didn't work out with them, but it didn't work out with these expectations, these imaginary memories that I've been creating in my head. And I've gotten myself so deep based on fantasizing rather than the actual connection I have with this person. And it was only until a few weeks ago that I realized this. And I was talking to my therapist about it. And he's like, okay, so you're saying you really like to manifest, but you're now identifying that this is not manifesting, it is fantasizing. But let's give it a name. Let's give it a title. I could not think of anything. My mind just went blank. But I did acknowledge, I was like, you're absolutely right. Maybe we'll circle back to this. It is a habit that I want to get rid of because I feel like it doesn't benefit me at all. I only end up hurting myself when I'm fantasizing about these people that I am talking to and or dating. And he suggested that I call it manifesting. And ever since he said that, I have caught myself so many times manifesting, and I stop it before it gets way too deep. I will be like 5 seconds into this fantasy zone to my manifesting, and I'm just like, Josh, you're manifesting. You're not manifesting. You're manifesting. And this is not reality. You gotta stop. Just focus on the now and stay present. And it has been so extremely helpful, especially since I'm putting myself out there and going on plenty of first and second dates and getting to know people better. It's so easy for me to just be like, ooh, I wonder what our next date will be like. I wonder if we'll kiss at the end of the day. I wonder if he's going to want to see me again. I wonder if we're going to run into friends. How will that be? How will I introduce them? I can go on and on and on. But instead I go, you're manifesting, bitch. Shut it down. And I swear to God, it works. So here's how you can do it too. I've broken it down into 3 helpful, easy to digest steps. So number 1, spot the culprit. Pay attention to the habits that trip you up the most. Is it overthinking? Is it procrastination? Is it imaginary arguments with people who have no idea that they're involved, which I am also guilty of? I used to have imaginary arguments with my friends, my family, because I had something on my mind I needed to express. But instead of living in the imaginary, you got to reel it in and tell your brain to stop. Number 2, give it a name. Be creative. Your inner perfectionist, maybe you're going to call it Judge Judy. The part of you that loves to avoid responsibility, call it Lazy Larry. The key here is humor. It's something that you can laugh at that doesn't feel too heavy, and you're going to be able to manage it. So when I am manifesting, the first thing I do when I say, oh, Josh, you're manifesting, is laugh. I laugh right away because it's a hilarious name. It's such a wonderful play on words. I'm so glad my therapist is much smarter than I am, so he could think of something funny, even though it was probably right in front of my face to call it manifesting. But give it a fun, funny name. It doesn't have to be negative. It doesn't have to be heavy. It doesn't have to be like you're like giving yourself a slap on the ass, not in a good way, as though you've misbehaved. Name it Judge Judy. Name it Lazy Larry. Make it rhyme. Make it fun. Number 3. Call it out and call it out loud. The next time your habit shows up, literally talk to it. Be like, all right, overanalyzing, Olivia, I see you, but we are not doing this today. Bring it right back to reality. And it sounds crazy and it sounds silly, but it stops the spiral right in its tracks. And I promise you it works. Just try it. Those are the 3 tips that I think work the way that I went about it. It's helped me a lot. So don't be afraid to give those nasty little habits a hilarious, punny, and funny little name to help you call them out, point it out, stop them in their tracks, and start rewiring your brain so that you can have more positive habits instead of just living in those negative habits that clearly are not serving you. moving right along. This is my big tip number 2. And this one is so important and something that I see a lot of people doing. Boundaries are for you. They're not for other people, which is very hard for a lot of people to wrap their heads around. Boundaries are like the best form of self-care. It puts you right in the driver's seat. You are in control. You can decide for yourself what you are willing to do and what you are not willing to do. But it is only about you. Boundaries are not about controlling other people's behavior. Let me say it again. Boundaries are not about controlling other people's behavior. It's about how you respond to it. Okay? Sit with that. Boundaries are for you, not for other people. I used to think that setting a boundary meant telling people what they could or could not do. I was like a human resource department for my own personal life, just being a bossy ass bitch, expecting everyone to do what I wanted them to do because that is the boundary that I thought I was setting. But it does not work like that. What does work is deciding what you will do if someone crosses your line, the line that you set, the boundary for yourself, and how you are going to respond. So, let's take an example. This is a hypothetical example, okay? Maybe. I had a friend who would cancel plans at the last minute all the time. Like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm totally swamped. And instead of sending like a passive aggressive, oh, no worries, and I'm actually raging on the inside because I hate being canceled on because I always follow through with my plans, I set a boundary for myself. I said, if they cancel last minute, I will stop making plans with them. There's no drama. There is no lecture. I used to love lecturing people. I am just protecting my peace. The boundary that I set for myself was that if they are not going to respect my time, then I will just take a little step back and I'm not going to make plans with them anymore if they continue to cancel on me. It means they're not committed to me, even if life gets in the way, it gets really busy. If it happens like every once in a while, sure. But if it is happening all of the time, that person is not respecting me. They're not respecting my time that I have set aside for them. So instead of being pissed off, I just said, I'm not going to make plans with them anymore if they cancel on me again. And they did. So I no longer make plans with them. I'm not mad at them. I don't have a vendetta against them. Of course, it would be great for people to value my time as much as I value theirs, but that is not reality. The opposite of a boundary would have been me saying that the boundary is that they cannot cancel on me again. If I said, I don't like you canceling on me, please don't do it anymore. That's me trying to set a boundary for them, telling them what to do. And then my response, because the boundary is about them, would have been probably aggressive and I would have been pissed off. But because I set the boundary for myself, I can just say, you know what? I'm not going to be pissed. I'm not going to be mad. I'm not going to send a bitchy ass text. I'm just not going to make plans with them anymore. We can still be friends, but the boundary that I set for myself, you have crossed that line. So here's how you can try this without feeling like a complete jerk, because it can feel like a little bit cunty and not in a good way when you're setting boundaries for yourself. So number 1, identify what is draining you. What situations or behaviors are making you feel disrespected, exhausted, or like you need to drink a whole bottle of wine? That's your starting point. Identifying the things, again, similar to those habits we talked about earlier, identifying the circumstances in your life that are not positively adding to your life experience. Number 2, decide your response. So instead of saying, you can't do this, reframe it as, if this happens again, here's what I will do. It's about controlling your actions and not theirs. And I feel like I want to say that again. Instead of saying to somebody, you can't do this, because that is not a boundary, you can reframe it and just say, if they do this, or if this keeps happening, here's how I will respond. That is a boundary. So for example, and I love this one. This is the one that is like on the back of my head. If someone speaks to you disrespectfully, the boundary you're going to set is not for them to not speak to you that way. The boundary is, I will leave the conversation and I will protect my peace. So if someone is being an asshole to you and speaking to you like crap, the boundary is that you leave the conversation, not get mad at them and expect them to completely change their tone. Or if someone is always late, you say, I'm going to give them 15 minutes and then I'm leaving. If you know that someone is notoriously late, that is your boundary. You're setting the boundary for yourself. Or if a coworker overshares like their personal drama, I'm going to put on my headphones. Good luck with that. You're stepping away from the situation and protecting your peace. Number 3, follow through. So the power of boundaries comes from enforcing them. If you say you're going to leave a party, if your ex shows up, grab your coat and go. You have to stick to your boundaries in order for them to serve you in an effective way. People learn how to treat you by what you will allow. Sometimes we allow way too much bullshit, and they're just going to keep treating us that way if we don't set those boundaries for ourselves and we don't follow them. Now, fun fact time. A study from the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships found that people who set clear boundaries experience less burnout and higher relationship satisfaction because, shocker, people pleasing is exhausting. When you're not setting boundaries, you're really just trying to please everybody else. And also, everybody else gets to do whatever the fuck they want to do whenever the fuck they want to do it. When you start taking back control, you set a boundary for yourself, and everyone else, depending on those boundaries, and if you follow the boundaries for yourself, can only affect you so much. A good example of this is my mother. My mother and my sister are butting heads, which is no surprise to anybody that knows them. And this happens with a lot of families. But this example is the reason I started researching what boundaries actually are and how to implement them in your life. My mom does not like the way that my sister speaks to her. And my mom also goes to therapy. And so she said that her therapist said that my sister was not respecting my mom's boundaries because she was continuing to speak to her with disrespect and la-di-da-di-da. However, as I mentioned not long ago, maybe 30 seconds ago, boundaries are not for somebody else. They are for you. So in that circumstance, I told my mom, a boundary is something you're setting for yourself. So you're going to decide whether you're going to continue to talk to your daughter, my sister, or not if she speaks to you that way. You cannot tell her what to do and expect her to just do it because she is not a child. Although you are her mother and she is your daughter, she's a 44-year-old woman, just like I'm a 36-year-old man. We're grown at this point. So you have to decide for yourself as an individual what you are willing to take from people and when you are going to draw the line and when you're going to step away when someone crosses that line. Boundaries are for you, not for other people. I cannot say it enough, but I won't say it anymore. Let's move on. Tip number 3, big tip number 3, trust your gut, okay? Seems simple, but it's not. If you're nervous, your nerves are flaring up, it means you're growing. Something is happening and it is not a bad thing. Sometimes it can be a bad thing, but let's be positive here. Being nervous about something is not always bad. So let's talk about your gut instinct. It's that little voice in your head that knows what's up before you even do. And here's what I learned that is like crazy to me. The physical sensation of anxiety and excitement are identical. You got your heart is racing, you've got butterflies, sweaty palms. I have the sweatiest palms on the planet when I am in a state of excitement and or anxiety. Your brain decides whether you're terrified or thrilled, but they feel the same a lot of the time. And I think a lot of the time we really confuse them. So I used to think that being nervous was a red flag, that it was a big, bad, something I did not want to sit in. But sometimes it's pointing towards growth. It can be a first date. It can be a career move or deciding to text someone first. You know that like anxiety feeling? You're stressed out after a date. You're like, should I text them? Should I not? Let me wait a day. And then the next day comes around and you're like, is it too soon to text them? You're just overthinking it. You get that nervous, those butterflies in your stomach. Your mind is racing. But that is the buzz of discomfort. But it's often your intuition just saying like, hey, like this is worth exploring. Like something good could be on the horizon. This could be positive change. This is you doing something different. Being nervous about something is pointing you in the direction of change. So reframing that nervousness can be a little bit challenging, but here's how I've been trying to approach it. So, number 1, pause and reframe. When you are nervous, ask yourself, am I in danger? If you're in danger and you're nervous, get the hell out of there. Or are you just stepping into something new? And spoiler alert, it's usually the second option. You are doing something different that could be scary in a good way, putting yourself out there in a good way, and you're nervous. Your body is responding to you doing something different, but different usually means good. Number 2, talk to yourself like you are your hype person. Instead of, oh my God, I'm so nervous. Why don't you try, I'm excited to see what happens. Your brain is going to believe what you tell it. Tell it something good. When I get nervous about texting somebody after a first or second or third date, when I'm like, when is that timeline? I don't want to wait too long, but then I don't want to do it right away and seem like desperado. So I'll usually wait like a day or something, maybe 24 hours, sometimes a little bit less. But I tell myself, this is me putting myself out there. This is me saying, you know what? I want to text this person. And if they're on the same page as me, they're not going to be intimidated by my early text. And if they are, then that's fine. If they're scared, if they're intimidated, if they think it's too much, then that just means they're not the right person for me. Or for example, when I used to be a dancer and I would go to auditions, I would get so nervous. I was also very self-conscious at the time, but I would get really, really nervous. But it was because I was doing something different. I was literally auditioning for Lady Gaga, Demi Lovato, Taylor Swift, with these guys that were 6 feet tall, super muscular, covered in tattoos, and I felt insecure, but I was also putting myself out there. If I wasn't going to those auditions, I would never get those jobs. Another spoiler alert, I did not get those gigs, but I would not have known if I would have or wouldn't have if I didn't put myself in a situation that made me a little bit nervous. It doesn't have to be a bad thing. Number 3, follow the tingles. That sounds sexual, but it's not. If something excites you, guess it could be a little sexual, and terrifies you a little, also could be a little sexual. That's your clue to do it. I should have formulated this very differently. Number 3, let's say number 3 again. Follow the tingles. If something excites you and terrifies you a little, that's your clue to do it. Growth lives on the other side of what if. Go ahead and take that chance. If you get full body chills and you get super nervous and you're just like freaking out a little bit, that's your body's way of being like, you know what, take this step, do it, go for it, quit your job, book the trip, apply for school, go on that first date, walk up to that fucker at the gym and be like, yo, let's go out. You're hot. I've been staring at you for months. If you're nervous about it, it's probably going to end up being a positive thing, even if you get shut down. Even if you don't get that dream job, even if you don't get into the school, you're putting yourself out there and doing something different and you can learn from that. You're going to continue doing these things that do make you vulnerable, but you're never going to change unless you go for it and you say, what if? Little bonus fact, a study published in Psychological Science found that people who trust their gut often make better decisions under pressure. So trust your intuition because it is smarter than you think. And I feel like as we get older, we start doing what we think the world wants us to do, what society wants us to do. We should get married. We should have a kid. We should buy a house. We should finish university or college and just get that 9-to-5 job. And majority of us end up being so fucking unhappy. You can literally do anything you want to do. And I try to hammer this home with family, with friends that are just kind of stuck in that one little zone. You can literally do anything. There's no reason. I'm going to Switzerland next week, and the amount of people that have been like, oh my God, I wish I could go on a trip like that. Why can't you? Save your money, budget, look into some affordable flights and hotels. Everyone can do anything. I work remotely a lot of the time. I have a lot of freedom in my schedule. People will tell me, oh my God, I wish I had jobs like that. You're so lucky, da 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 da. You can do that too. Just because you're in a 9-to-5 at an office now doesn't mean you can't create a path for yourself that is going to look like mine, where I get to go to the gym and lay by the pool in the middle of the day. You can fucking do it too. People always tell me, oh, I wish I lived in California. It looks so nice. I grew up in Canada. I moved here 13 years ago. I just made it happen. All you have to do is tell yourself that there's literally nothing holding you back except for you. And that's when we need to trust our instincts. That's really the tea. Those are the 3 therapy tips that I have been hanging on to and really focusing on the last 4 to 5 weeks. Number 1, name your negative habits and keep them in check. Number 2, set boundaries for you, not as a people policing tool. And number 3, trust your gut, especially when it's buzzing with nerves. I promise these 3 things can be applied to almost anyone and everyone. You can alter them how you see fit. I wish I would have known these things a long time ago, and my hope is that I can just help other people learn this stuff as I start to absorb it and apply it to my life. And that is where I will leave you. Do with it what you wish. And also, these 3 little tips can really come in handy if you're dealing with somebody who's doing the opposite of what I just suggested. You can offer these little positive changes to people, just like I did with my mom, kind of trying to educate her on boundaries. You can share these tidbits to help other people navigate their lives, but also navigate their relationships with you. It's all about communication. So feel free to share this episode with somebody who you think has lots of negative habits and needs to keep them in check, or needs to set some boundaries for themselves, or has not been trusting their gut and really should. So until next time, you guys, keep growing, keep laughing, and most importantly, dramatic Danny, okay? Do not let him win. Judge Judy, that bitch needs to sit down. You're in control, so get back in the driver's seat and show your brain who is boss. And I'll catch you guys next time. Thank you again so much for listening to this episode of Hot Air. And it would be really great, I would super appreciate it if you would subscribe wherever you are listening to your podcast right now, so that you can be notified when new episodes come out. Also, rating and leaving a review will help my podcast get seen by more and more people. So why not share the Hot Air love? I'd love it if you would. See you next week.